how uncomfortable are you willing to get to solve the problems or the things that you see as problems? And I think for the vast majority of people in our generation, the answer is 0. Mm-hmm. I'm not willing to give up none of my comforts, you know? If they told us tomorrow we could solve the climate crisis if everybody just went this whole next summer with no air conditioning. If you just had to go to just one summer with no AC, not in your car, not in your house, we all just suffer for one thing. Nobody would fucking do it. People would do the same thing they did during the pandemic with the masks and shit. They would be on Twitter talking about telling everybody to do what's best, what they should do, and then they would be secretly in their car just blasting that shit. Yeah, last episode we talked about Genghis Khan a little bit. We ended talking about Genghis Khan, but I just wanted to say my favorite historical general is Hannibal Barca. He was a bad motherfucker, you know, and he had Rome so shook. You know, and maybe I've said this before, but like he was such a bad motherfucker that like Rome eventually beat him. He was betrayed by his own people because they were bitch made, and they still couldn't erase him from history. You know, like they burned down and destroyed his whole city of Carthage. They tried their best, but he had fucked them up so thoroughly. He had fucked them up so thoroughly that they still couldn't. Like all the way to the end of Rome, they had a saying like Hannibal's at the gates. Like when something was going bad, mm-hmm. That's how much he beat their ass. He beat the fuck out of Rome. Like, and you can go look into it. Go look at the history of Hannibal Barca. And it was like he swore to his dying father that he would dedicate his whole life to beating the shit out of Rome. And he sure did do that. He really did. He beat their ass so bad that there was a point where he killed in one battle. He killed like 25% of the adult men in Rome, of the Roman adult men in one day. Yeah, because he was outsmarting them with because Rome didn't believe in like scouting and shit like that. Like, they was all like, hey, straight up, let's meet on a flat surface and our people push up against your people. Like that's real war. And you know, in Hannibal, you know, he'd have niggas waiting in the bushes, motherfuckers, you know, they done encircled you, the pincer maneuver, like he started all that shit, you know.
Yeah, he'd be like, yeah, I'll come to your battle. I'm gonna bring elephants.
Yeah. Well, actually, what's funny is that battle. If you just to get, if you don't want to look at the whole history, just go Google the Battle of Cannae or the Battle of Cannae, Canae. That was the definitive. That was one of many, but that was the big one. That was after he fucked them up one time, and then Rome decided they was going to put together the biggest army they'd ever put together and go get this motherfucker. And then he beat the shit out of them too. You know what I'm saying? And he's waiting at the Roman gates, and instead of going in, he decided to wait for reinforcements that never came because Rome bribed the politicians in Carthage, and they kind of left him out to dry. So, you know, this is after.
I know why you like Hannibal so much.
Why?
Because the Second Punic War is one of the greatest acts of revenge of all time.
Exactly. He said, "Daddy, I'm gonna get these hoes," and he got them hoes. He really did. And here's the thing: he even lost. You know, at the end of the day, you know, his people betrayed him, and he ended up losing that final battle at Rome, like at the, you know, right at the city. He was if he had gone in right then, he would have wiped Rome out. And he ended up losing that battle, but they still didn't get him. So he was like, okay, fuck Carthage. And he ended up like going to being like a strategic advisor for other Roman enemies and was whooping their ass through third parties and shit, indirectly. And finally somebody turned him in, and he ended up like taking some poison that he carried around in this ring So they still never got him. He whooped their ass his whole life and then killed himself like a G rather than be captured. So yeah, go look it up. Battle of Cannae and tell me this motherfucker ain't bad. He outsmarted them. Bigger army, all this other stuff that didn't matter. Anyway, Rob, you said you wanted to cover what today?
There was an article that I dropped in the Trello from Nature magazine, how the Great Depression shaped people's DNA.
Oh, the Great Depression. Oh, like literally shaped their DNA?
Yeah. Epigenetic testing.
Okay, so first of all, let's cover what epigenetics is, and stop me if this is just me going from memory, so stop me if I get anything wrong. But epigenetics suggests that trauma is imprinted on your DNA and passed on to your offspring. Or rather, responses to trauma are imprinted on your DNA and can be passed on to your offspring. So if you are traumatized before you have a baby or before you get pregnant,
let's explain what the epigenome is first.
Okay.
So you have the genome, which is your DNA. Right. That's the ACTG stuff that you see when you see like your actual genome, right? But then you have the epigenome, which is chemical markers that attach to your DNA. So it's sort of like the metadata surrounding your DNA. That can change due to stress or other environmental factors, exposures to different chemicals, things like that, that can alter your epigenetics, which then gets passed on to your children.
And that would explain a lot. Okay, so let's talk about it. Epigenetics study finds that children born during the historic recession have markers of accelerated aging later in life. Man, that would explain why older people look so old.
Yes.
Right? Like I know 40-year-olds and 50-year-olds. Like I'm 40. But when my granddad was 40, he looked 90. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's like when you look at pictures of older people and they're 40 or 35, they look old as fuck. And now you see somebody that's 35 and you can't, like 35-year-old motherfuckers look like Rob. Right? How old are you?
37.
See, he don't look like a 37-year-old from the 50s.
Right.
So it says the worst recession in U.S. history shaped how well people would age. Before they were even born, researchers have found that the cells of people who were conceived during the Great Depression, which lasted from 1929 to 1939, and at its height saw about 25% of the U.S. workforce unemployed, show signs of accelerated aging. The study authors measured these changes in the cell's epigenome, the collection of chemical markers attached to DNA that determines when, where, and by how much genes are expressed in each cell. And they think the pattern of markers that they uncovered could be linked to higher rates of both chronic illness and death. The work, published on 8 November in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, adds to a cachet of studies indicating that exposure to hardships such as stress and starvation during the earliest stages of development can shape human health for decades. The findings highlight how social programs designed to help pregnant people could be a tool for fighting health disparities in children. Although the study is far from the first to link big historical events to changes in the epigenome, the fact that the signal appears in data collected from people in their 70s and 80s is mind-blowing, says Patrick Allard, an environmental epigeneticist at the University of California, Los Angeles. It's definitely something that will make its way into the textbooks, he says. In epigenetic alterations, in the earliest stages of development, an embryo is a packet of potential containing genetic instructions to build the molecular components of the body. Over time, however, cells add and remove chemical modifiers known as epigenetic tags to their DNA, and these shape how those cells and their descendants execute the instructions. The tags are influenced by a variety of factors, including hormones, diet, and people's environment. The alterations made during this key window can last a lifetime. In 2008, researchers found that people conceived during a famine in the Netherlands at the end of the Second World War had different epigenetic markers compared with siblings born outside this time frame. Those born during the famine had higher rates of metabolic illness later in life, leading scientists to suspect that their exposure to malnutrition during early development permanently shaped how the bodies processed food. Since then, a slew of animal studies have linked early exposure to pollutants, stress, and poor diet to a wide variety of epigenetic alterations that can shape everything from hair color to brain development. It goes on and on and on and on. Yeah, I'm not surprised at that. I'm not surprised by that at all. Malnourished children have developmental problems. That doesn't seem like that big of a leap, right?
Yeah, I think it's also it's not just that you have a famine and so there's fewer calories going into the kids, so the kids end up 3 inches shorter, right? Like that's one of the things that happened in North Korea, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Because there was a famine in North Korea, and they're not very genetically distinct from South Koreans, but because of that brief famine, there's a huge height disparity between adult North Koreans and adult South Koreans from that generation, right? But I think the thing that's interesting is that
except for Kim Jong-un, somehow he is 7'5"
yeah,
and an Olympic level athlete according to the official documents.
He gets a hole in one on every hole of golf that he plays.
Yeah, he's incredible, this guy.
But what's interesting about it is the notion that it could affect the gene expression for your children, right?
Right.
That
you being born during like you getting pregnant during hard times is what starts the problems, right?
Right. Because with the sibling study in the Netherlands, those kids were raised in the same family. They were fed the same food. It's just that their bodies processed the food differently.
Yeah. So
even though they were from the same parents.
My takeaway from this is you should stop fucking people with problems. Yeah. Stop fucking people with problems. At least the people that tell you all their problems right when you meet them, it's a red flag. It's a red flag.
I think it also just goes back to how a lot of these tests that people have when they try to show that there's like genetic factors for intelligence, which obviously there are genetic factors for intelligence, but people try to show that smart people are all smart because they have better genes, and it's like, no, a lot of it is just people tend to have lower intelligence when they are born into or raised in stressful situations.
Damn, dude, I wonder how smart I would be if I was raised in a normal situation. Because I've been stressed out since the womb.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I just want I mean, if that's true, because so I see what you're saying. It's like sure, your potential is genetic, but your potential to be intelligent is genetic, but how those genes manifest is environmental, which I've always suspected because I'm a genius. Mm-hmm. I've known this already. I don't need to even do studies or be peer reviewed or nothing. I'm just right. No, but these people, like, what do you think? What do you think? I don't know if there's anything that can really be done about that.
No, I think there is. I think that we could have social programs that relieve the stress of child rearing, because, like, child rearing is very labor intensive, very expensive. It exacerbates. It's hard enough to fucking survive when you're just like one person living in an apartment or two people living in an apartment. When you add a baby to it, it increases all of those emotional stressors, all the money stressors.
You add a creature that you're not allowed to abandon.
Right, exactly.
Well, you can't. But, there's shame involved.
Yeah. So I think that having social programs that give people support to feed their kids, have the time to raise their kids, keep their kids healthy, all those things. I think those are programs that not only would be beneficial, but where they're tested, they prove to be quite beneficial. But we'll never do them in the U.S.
This makes me even more cynical because it feels like a repeating cycle. It's like the poorest people are the most stressed, which makes it harder to be smart, which makes it harder to vote against the things that are making you stressed. And so it's this cycle that's just going to keep repeating until we're so stupid and so far gone. It's idiocracy.
Although I think things do get better over time, because I mean, it comes down to things that people don't expect, right? Like, probably one of the best things that we've ever done in this country is
bidets.
What's that?
Bidets.
Bidets would be great. But no, we got rid of leaded gasoline.
Do they have bidets in the White House? Because I think
yes,
they do.
For sure.
Does you think the president and the vice president are all, they walking around squeaky clean buttholes? Squeaky
clean.
Yeah.
And they don't have. It's not like a tushy. They don't have like some add-on thing to the old toilet. They got like a Japanese.
But you don't think it's
heated bidet,
like an American pride thing, where it's like no.
There's plenty of shit from other countries in the White House.
My grandfather used the regular toilet, and his grandfather used the regular toilet, and he was a coal miner. You know how they all say that? My granddaughter was a coal miner. They used a regular toilet.
Yeah.
So maybe,
or maybe
Obama.
we got one from the French president in like 1965.
Maybe Obama. Well, I don't know if I told you this before, but the bidet was invented in France, right? Uh-huh. But the electronic toilet seat was invented here. We invented, because the bidet is just the part that blows water in your ass, right? All the other stuff we attached all that to it, all of the automatic shit and all that, and because it was hard, the guy that invented it, he made it for his parents. So he was initially trying to sell it for old folks care, but he found it hard in those times to talk about your parents shitting. So it didn't have any traction. So he sold it to a company in Japan, which is now Toto, which is the biggest washlet company in the world. That's what they call it, a washlet. It's the biggest washlet company in the world. And it's actually an American thing, and now Americans refuse to use it, even though it's better, like the metric system or solar power and shit like that.
I'm a strong defender of the imperial system.
So banning unleaded gas, you're right. That helped. That helped, but we still got coal, and we still got fossil fuels and stuff like that. It's not going to get better fast enough because things don't change here. Because I guarantee you, if you look back on it, if you look into it, I bet you the only reason we banned unleaded gas is because we found out that the only reason we banned leaded gas is because we found out that unleaded gas was cheaper or more profitable.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Why do we ban? It wasn't until 1969 that the first clinical studies showed that it had toxic impacts on humans. From there, the evidence of the extent of lead poisoning and its potential link with poor cognitive performance in children continued to grow. In response, many countries began to phase. The thing is, we can get our act together when it's like one thing, right?
We just
got there was a hole in the ozone layer, and we got rid of CFCs because that was one thing.
We got lucky. We just lucky that nobody was like, unleaded gas causes autism or some shit like that. Because it's we're at constant war with half smart people. Because I don't want to call them stupid, because the stupidest people are not the problem. It's the people that are just smart enough. They're just smart enough to read the words and jump to conclusions, but they're not smart enough to challenge their own conclusions and change their minds. because that
Right, they're smart enough to rationalize what they already believe.
Exactly. It's like these people that are, I don't know if you follow pop culture news or whatever, but right now there's a big trial with Meg Thee Stallion and Tory Lanez, and you know these people? Rob doesn't know who the fuck I'm talking about.
I know who Meg Thee Stallion is.
Okay, well, during the pandemic, it was a thing. They had a thing at a party, and she was shot, and or she stepped on glass. Whatever happened, it hurt. She says he shot her, and now the trial's happening, right? And everywhere I go, people want to talk about it. I purposely avoided talking about it on this podcast, and it just came up because my mouth just runs. But everyone watching the thing is pretending as though they're it was like the Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing. It's like people that are watching the trial are pretending as though they're watching the trial so they can get all the facts and make an informed decision. But in reality, they decided when they first heard whose side they was on, and they're watching the trial just hoping that whatever comes out in the trial justifies what they already think. And if it doesn't, then they're gonna call the trial bullshit or sham. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you're not paying attention because you want to know. You're paying. You just want to justify what you already think. I think that's how most people live most of their lives. It takes a very disciplined and intelligent mind to truly be objective or try their best to be objective. Most people don't put a single iota of effort into being objective. Ask yourself that. When's the last time you changed your mind about something you really believed?
When's the last time you changed your mind?
When's the last time I changed my mind about Elon Musk?
Oh, yeah.
I changed my mind this morning.
Talked about that in last episode. No, you're right.
Yeah. Because I will back up and think about it and give it some thought and, fuck them. That's easy for me. It's easier for me. It's not easy at all, But again, that wasn't like a firmly held belief.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, going from firmly Christian to non-believer, that was a tough one.
Mm-hmm. When did you do that?
Man, that was like probably like right around the time I started doing comedy, like 2012, 2011.
Well, so you were an adult.
Yeah, I was an adult. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably the Michael Jackson thing.
You mean like after he died, or do you mean during the cases?
After he died? Yeah. I was like, oh, you know what? I don't think he was really touching them kids.
Oh, you think he wasn't touching the kids?
No, I think he wasn't. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh man, and boy, have I been in a lot of arguments about this. Because that's another thing too. A lot of people don't. It's like I feel like we live in this society now where people identify so strongly with their opinions that that you can't attack their ideas without them feeling personally attacked. Because that's why I came. It's like because that's what it was when I learned. As I was starting comedy in around 2011, I was in this philosophy class, and that's when I learned how to assess an idea objectively and independent of myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This guy went through this class. The first half of the class was just basic logic and reason, but it was really a philosophy of religion class, and he went through all the religions. You know what I mean? And he saved Christianity for last. He did the Eastern religions first. Buddhism, Taoism, all of that. And then when he got to the Western religions, man, he hit Christianity. By the time he hit Christianity, half of the class stopped coming. And it was like, yeah, but it's like, but you've broken down all these other religions. Now we at the one you believe. Now what you gonna do? Right. And it's like, you can stay intellectually consistent or you can choose to not be. That's up to you. But it's like, if you apply the same logic and reasoning to everything equally, you're gonna come to a conclusion that maybe you're not comfortable with, right? And so that's when I learned how. That doesn't make it any easier to do.
Right.
You know, it's like when a mother finds out her son's a criminal or something. You know, it's like a lot of times, you know, there's a lot of mothers out there, man, you could have their kid on tape doing some shit. DNA, fingerprints, all that, and they still don't buy it. You know?
It's hard.
You think Jeffrey Dahmer's mama's like, nah, my baby ain't killed nobody. He ain't eat nobody. You know? You wouldn't be shocked.
Sometimes it is funny when you see like their parents, and the parents was like, "Oh yeah, he did that shit."
Oh yeah.
Sometimes the parents are the first ones are like, "Oh, you heard about Jeffrey, right? Yeah, okay."
Mm-hmm.
I've been waiting for this phone call.
Yeah, no bullshit. Like, you know, it's like I found his cookbook when he was 11.
Yeah.
You know. When's the last time
that
you changed your mind, Rob, about something you strongly believed?
I'm trying to think. I think it's something we kind of talked about the last episode. The value of, you know, I'm anti-capitalist, but I understand the true value that capitalism can provide to a society, which is we have a way of leveraging antisocial behavior, right? And I think that
break that down. What do you mean by leveraging antisocial behavior?
I'll use an example. Like look at like the military, and look at somebody who has the capability of being a top level sniper. Well, I'm repeating myself there because there's only top level snipers in the American military. But there are people who have the physical dexterity and physical ability to pull the trigger and hit that shot, right? But not everybody has the psychology necessary to do that. To see somebody in high def get their head turned into pink mist because you pulled the trigger. Right? A lot of people can't handle that. Most people can't handle that. So all of those snipers are in some, I mean, they're close to having antisocial personality disorder. You know, there's something a little bit tweaked about them that they can do that job. So is it better, like I'm against the military, but is it better to have those people doing that, right? And us aiming their APD, their antisocial personality disorder, at our enemies, quote unquote, rather than have them walking around in civilian life? Maybe. Right?
Right.
And so same thing for, if you have a real life Patrick Bateman from American Psycho, is it better if he's walking around killing hookers and hiding bodies in empty apartments and stuff like that, or just doing mergers and acquisitions? Because you also have to have something a little tweaked about you to do that. You have to have something tweaked about you to be a CEO. You know, all the shit that you have to do to be a top tier like CEO and make that much money, to be a Jeff Bezos or an Elon Musk or even a Warren Buffett or whatever, you have to be cold-blooded. And that's how we got talking about Genghis Khan in the last episode, where it's like, back in the day, those would be conquerors. Those would be history's villains.
You don't think there's people that exist that can turn it on and off?
Probably. I think that there's got to be some people who can flit in between them.
Yeah, I feel like I can do that. I feel like as sensitive and squeamish as I am most of the time, is like if with the right information, I can in my mind look at another person as less than human.
I mean, I've talked about that with my brother. My brother's a doctor, and I couldn't do what he does because he does have to kind of turn it off.
Yeah.
When you're doing surgery on somebody, you have to be empathetic to some degree to even want to get into medicine, right?
Right.
To get into healthcare. But a lot of people who get into healthcare, they have too much empathy.
Right.
You know, you sometimes have to turn off your humanity to do what has to be done in a surgery suite. You know,
it reminds me.
You got to cut into somebody.
It reminds me of that movie. You ever seen Equilibrium? It's one of my favorite movies.
Love Equilibrium.
But you know, at the part at the end when they introduce him to the underground, and he meets the leader of the underground, and he basically tells him, like, you know, some of us don't have the luxury to feel. It's like, so he's the leader of the underground, but he's still taking his dose.
Right.
Because he's like, some of us have to turn off the feeling for the greater cause. Like I guess that's what I'm kind of trying to go at, is like, some people have to, because that takes a toll on you. Like you saying your brother's a surgeon. It's like turning it on and off fucks you up.
Yeah.
You know, over time. But that sacrifice has to be made because we need people that can do it.
Yeah, it's another reason why there's a lot of drug abuse and alcohol abuse with like top level surgeons, with lawyers, with politicians and stuff. I mean, not just because
everyone that's close to the darkness, has to cope, and that's when I say the darkness, I mean death and suffering, because the average American is insulated from any of the death and suffering that we benefit from, right? No one's ever going to send you a picture of the kid that made your iPhone,
right?
You know what I'm saying?
Well, you know what it's like. You know what it's like. The movie A Few Good Men. You know, the big. You've seen the movie, right? Yeah. At the end, when Tom Cruise is doing the cross examination of Jack Nicholson's character, and it's the "you can't handle the truth" line, you know, and he's saying, like, the fact that I do all this evil shit and you're going to look down on me, the fact that the only reason you get to keep your hands clean is because I'm doing all the shit that you can't.
Yeah, it's just like the Scarface scene where he's like, where he's in the restaurant yelling at the rich people, like, you need bad guys like me so you can point your fucking fingers.
Right.
Y'all are doing all the cocaine.
Right.
That I'm bringing in,
exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So
it
is. I mean, I think, but that's now we're just getting into like the human condition, because it's like, that is what it is. Society. We need the. I think a lot of people have this need to look at everything like black and white. It's like, there's good guys and bad guys, and the truth is, the world just ain't that simple.
Right. And I think that you were asking me, like, what I had changed my mind about recently, and I think I did. I think I was looking at the world a little more black and white up until very recently. A lot more gray has sort of entered into my viewpoint on as regards things like money and business and stuff like that.
Yeah. I want more money. I still resent the fact that I need it.
Yes.
But that is the world that we live in. And and if I could snap my fingers and change it, I would, maybe. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough to be, because I don't know if I can honestly call myself anti-capitalist. I think that would be disingenuous. It sounds cool. Mm-hmm. It sounds cool to my comrades. But that would be disingenuous. I am suspicious of capitalism. I'm suspicious of capitalists. I don't believe that our current form of it is the best possible thing. But I also don't see a way to transition to something better, because I feel like we're sort of trapped in a way, because the result of capitalism is that capitalists have the most power and influence, and then they get to shape the rules in their favor.
It's an extremely resilient system, because it amasses power for the people who have a vested interest in maintaining it, right?
Right, and then don't forget the mid-level capitalists are really, they're really the key to it all. Is, you know, they. I was talking to a friend the other day, and they were telling me like that if you look at the list of comedians that made the most money last year, and it's like, you know, it's like the top guy was like $44 million. Same thing with athletes. You look at the richest athletes, and it's like LeBron James and Tiger Woods and all those people, and they tell you they made hundreds of millions of dollars, and they, you know, this and this and that. But it's like, and a lot of those people started out with nothing. They didn't start out with money, and their stories are what allow the poor, because there's way more of us poor people, or poorer people. But their stories allow you to support or vote against your interests because of the possibility that you could also come up in the system. So you know, but what they never mention is that every one of those people you name, someone else made way more money off them.
Right.
You know, however many hundreds of millions LeBron James has made in his career, somebody else made $1 billion off him. You know what I'm saying? Athletes are not the richest people in sports. Singers and musicians are not the richest people in music. Comedians are not the richest people in comedy. But we're here as an example so that people that are poorer than us look up at us and go, oh, the system can work. It does work. When in reality, it doesn't. Like, I'm never going to be a billionaire no matter how hard I work. The system just ain't set up that way. Because the only way I could be a billionaire is if I'm making somebody else $1 trillion. Right. You know what I mean? And you know, so it's one of those things where it's like, it's such a resilient system because the people that it is exploiting also prop it up. You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, at some point, I think you just get fighting the good fight is a young man's game. You know, you get to a point where like you get so old, you've been fighting for so long, you're just like, man, fuck it, I'm tired of fighting. Let the youngins do it. And it seems like this new generation, they just like to cry. They don't really like to fight. They're like, yo, if this tweet don't cancel this motherfucker, that's all I got. You know what I'm saying? I ain't about to run up in the bank and chain myself to the ATM and I'm like that. You know, so.
Well, I don't know. I think I disagree with that. I think that there are some young people who are doing direct action and organizing.
Oh yeah,
it's just the deck is stacked against you.
They exist. I just mean as a whole.
Oh yeah.
I don't because here's the thing. This generation is the most comfortable. And your comforts, because it's easy to talk. You know what I mean? If you ain't willing to give nothing up, then your talking don't mean shit. You know what I mean?
But that's one of the ways that that systems manufacture consent, right?
You don't want to lose your comforts.
You don't want to lose your comforts. You don't want to lose your place in the pecking order.
Yeah, we're the most comfortable generation that's ever lived, in America at least. And which means, I think, subconsciously we have the most to lose from rocking the boat. So it's like, even the people that sit around and go, this is all fucked up and something needs to be done. You know, it's like, well, you go, hey, well, look, then, you know, give up your PlayStation. Oh, I mean, well, why do I have to do that? You know, it's like no one's willing to actually lose anything. No one wants their life to change. They think other people's lives are just going to be better if they complain. You know, they want the fight to take place somewhere else, but not anywhere around them. You know.
The counter to that though is if I give up my PlayStation, what does that?
Let me give an example more rooted in reality. When I first moved to Austin, right around here somewhere where we record, downtown. Is this downtown?
Yeah, right on 6th.
Okay, yeah. So, you know, when I first got here, when I first started visiting here last year, there were homeless people all over the fucking place, right? Because the shelter is right on the corner, and it was just a lot. It was a lot going on. It was like, it wasn't Skid Row levels, like LA Skid Row type levels, because that's just fucking lawless land over there. But a lot of people that I would talk to, their problem wasn't, let me just say this. Someone I know said to me, they were complaining about the homeless people. And to me, it sounded like they were complaining that they just have to, because that's how most people that are complaining about homeless people aren't complaining about the homeless crisis, like the housing crisis. They're complaining that like they have to see them. That like they're around here. You know what I mean? Not that they exist, not that they don't have anywhere to live, but that like I have to encounter them in my everyday dealings. And what they would really like is for not to have to see them. And you know what? You don't.
They don't care if they're in a house. They just don't want them on the street.
Exactly. And now listen. So right now, by the time I moved here, there's still a few homeless people here, but it's like 50 times less. And I don't hear that friend complaining anymore. Now they didn't all of a sudden solve the housing crisis in Austin.
Right. Yeah.
We just don't see them around anymore. And you know something he said to me that was very powerful? Because I was like, they just people trying to survive. You know what he said? He was like, well, let them camp out in front of your fucking house. I was like, oh, I don't want that. It's like, you don't want that. You want them to have somewhere to go, but you don't want them to go near you. Because I didn't live downtown. I live out by the campus. So it wasn't the same problem for me as it was for him. Right? And as much as my compassionate side is like, well, we should give them housing. Like, let's give them free housing. Because that's what I think. I still think that's the solution. Yeah. But in the meantime, between time, when I accused him, I was like, you just want them to go away. He was like, yeah, I don't want them outside my house when I walk outside. And I'm like, they should be able to be wherever. He was like, well, then let them be in front of your house. I'm like, well, I don't want that either. You know what I mean? Because that's the truth. I don't want to walk outside and there's just random fucking homeless people outside my house. So then, do I really give a fuck? It's the same thing I accuse people of all the time. I'm like, someone should do something, but not me. I mean, I donate money. I might pass out some shit at the soup kitchen, but I'm not gonna give up nothing I got. Like, I don't want. You can't stay with me. You can't sleep on my front yard, right? And so it's. I guess the point I'm trying to make is, how uncomfortable are you willing to get to solve the problems or the things that you see as problems? And I think for the vast majority of people in our generation, the answer is 0. Mm-hmm. I'm not willing to give up none of my comforts. If they told us tomorrow we could solve the climate crisis if everybody just went this whole next summer with no air conditioning. If you just had to go to just one summer with no AC, not in your car, not in your house, nowhere, we all just suffer for one summer, nobody would fucking do it. People would do the same thing they did during the pandemic with the masks and shit. They would be on Twitter talking about telling everybody what's best, what they should do, and then they would be secretly in their car just blasting that shit. Right? That's because that's what people doing on the pandemic. They were like, I can't believe how people are how hard is it to fucking wear a mask? And then you see them at these secret Hollywood parties, on Molly with no mask on, just breathing heavy as a motherfucker.
I mean, there's definitely a lot of hypocrisy out there. I think it's tricky though because it's a collective action problem. Like, you always have those issues with collective action problems.
Yeah, and that's our kryptonite.
Yeah.
If the solution,
but that's why that's by definition virtually every social problem is a collective action problem. The solution is
that we have to work together, it ain't happening. If the solution is that you have to sacrifice for people that you don't know that have less than you, that solution ain't gonna happen. You better off with a violent solution. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you could make people recycle at gunpoint, like you're like, yo, if I come out here, if I find a can, like we need like an inquisition. If I find a can in the green bin, I'm gonna execute somebody in your house. That would be
Gestapo.
That would be more effective. I mean, actually, that's not a good example because I believe that the recycling shit is nonsense, especially here in Texas. I don't think they recycle that shit at all.
Some of it is and some of it isn't. Like for cans and for glass, like aluminum and glass and some paper, you can recycle that pretty efficiently. And that the reason why people that go around with the bags and like take trash out of trash cans and like collect it, that's the reason why they collect cans, is because aluminum is expensive to manufacture, so recycling is actually economical.
But you know what sucks out here?
What's that?
They only take the recycling every other week. It sucks. Yeah, because there's 3 adults in my house. And so oftentimes our recycling bin will just be fucking chock full, just sitting out there for a week because they only come every other week. And you can't like call them and make them come. Or can you?
I think that's just here in Austin.
Oh, okay. Yeah, for whatever reason in Austin, the most liberal city in Texas, they recycle every other week. And I honestly think they just take that shit. I think that all goes to the trash dump.
A lot of it does.
And a lot of these companies, here's the thing too, the big companies support this recycling shit because it puts the onus on you and not them.
Bingo.
Because if everyone in America recycled perfectly, it wouldn't put a fucking dent in what all the corporate waste and shit. You know what I'm saying? So it's like They love this recycling campaign because it makes you feel bad about something that they're doing, that you can't fix it. None of So I'm back in cynical mode again. I'm being cynical, but I just
it's like how people talk about like their carbon footprint, and it's like that shit is a scam made by the oil companies to make it like you're the one with the footprint when it's like they are orders of magnitude. Yes, it is a good thing. Not like it's just generally good to be frugal and not waste things unnecessarily. Obviously, that's a good thing. That's a good virtue to foster in yourself. So yeah, you should turn off the water when you're not using it and everything. But I can leave my water running 24 hours a day and it's not going to come even close to how much water is wasted fucking farming almonds or whatever the fuck.
Yeah. My carbon footprint, because here's the thing. The best way to reduce your carbon footprint is to jump off a fucking bridge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And jump off a bridge in somewhere where they're not going to find you. So that way, no resources are wasted like moving your body or funerals and all that. Just jump off a bridge somewhere in the middle of nowhere and get declared missing and all of that other stuff. But no one's going to do that,
Right.
So, you having a baby, that's a huge on your carbon footprint.
Yep.
That's basically, that having a child is like you just basically buying 2 semi-trucks. And driving those around like for commuting. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just don't know I don't know if all these individual efforts are gonna make a difference. Maybe I'm up there with these extinction people. Well, remember those people we talked about a couple episodes ago that like they refuse to have kids because they want the human race to go extinct? No, that ain't gonna work.
Here's the problem with that. Here's one of the problems with that we didn't talk about, which is the problems that we are causing as the dominant species on this planet. Well, dominant species in one way, at least. Maybe not in some other ways, but those are a function of how we have evolved to live on this planet, right? If you snap your fingers and erased, you did a Thanos snap, but you just erase 100% of the human beings from this planet, nature would reproduce a human-like species that would have all the same problems that we've introduced into the ecosystem. So for me, from my perspective, the answer is not to make humans go extinct. It's for us to figure out a way to live on this planet in a way that we don't make ourselves extinct, that we don't destroy everything that we have to share the planet with.
That's impossible. Look, our best chance of survival is that we find a way to mine essential resources from asteroids or something. We're not gonna stop sucking the resources from this planet dry until our only hope is that we find somewhere else to get them from.
Yeah, the only thing that'll stop us from pumping out every last drop of oil underneath the surface of this planet is if something else is cheaper.
Yeah.
That's literally it.
Yeah, we're doomed. We're doomed.
And there's nothing on the horizon that's going to be cheaper than fossil fuels.
Our best bet is that Elon Musk buys Earth. See, nobody thought about that. What if Elon Musk bought Earth and ran it the way he runs Tesla with his genius?
He's not rich enough anymore now.
He can borrow money from the Saudis.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, Elon Musk takes out a loan to buy Earth and then delegates the resources. He gets a couple people from Tesla.
Why? Well, here's your problem. So why would the Saudis want Elon to buy Earth and make oil more expensive than other alternative? Make an alternative to oil. The Saudis make all their money off of oil. They want the oil to get pumped out.
See, Rob, now my question is why do you have a problem with black men shining, having brilliant ideas? You saw him, he just attacked a black man in his ideas live on the podcast. Right? While I'm being perfectly logical and reasonable. And and I'm surprised that it's coming from you, Rob, of all people.
I know
this race.
Well, I mean, I've for so long I've been known as such an ally to the black community that this heel turn is really coming as a surprise.
All right, let's do one email. Or no, let's do one more article before we get out of here.
All right.
Holy shit! All right, we have a good time, don't we, guys?
We do.
This is from The Guardian. The headline reads, "Sexual choking is now so common that many young people don't think it even requires consent. That's a problem." Wow. In a sexual landscape shaped by pornography, far too many incorrectly believe that choking is routine and risk-free. When I was 19, I was at a birthday event. We were playing a drinking game, and one of the questions was, "What's the kinkiest thing you like to do during sex?" My friend, who was 17, replied, "It's not really that kinky, but I guess choking." Uh-oh. See, that's crazy. See, it wasn't that long ago. See, when I was a teenager in that, coming of age, boy meets world type of age, people wouldn't even admit to masturbating or eating pussy. Both things were things that there was shame involved. Now I don't know anyone that won't do that. That won't oh yeah, I'm the best at eating pussy. I beat my dick every single day. So it's wild that choking has reached this level. The conversation carried on as if nothing out of the ordinary had just been said. I remember feeling self-conscious about my sexuality, wondering if I was a prude, if the consensus was that choking was not really that kinky. Choking during partner sex is a form of sexual asphyxiation. Although it's colloquially called choking, it's actually a form of strangulation, as it's performed by pressing or squeezing the neck. Medically, choking means an internal blockage of air passages. The pressure around the neck cuts off the flow of blood, resulting in blood congestion in the brain. The effect is lightheadedness due to the drop in oxygen levels and increase in carbon dioxide. For some, this intensifies erotic pleasure. This all sounds quite extreme when you spell it out like this, but in the moment, all that is needed is a hand around the neck during an intimate moment. Other than the deprivation of oxygen to the brain, many women have told me that the gesture is erotic in itself, as it instantly adds an overt power dynamic into a sexual act. In human sexuality, kinkiness is the use of non-conventional sexual practices, concepts, or fantasies. Choking in sex is a kink, yet it has somehow made its way under the mainstream umbrella of things that many young people assume are okay to do without consent, often the first time you're sexually involved with them. Experts have warned that there is no safe way to engage in this act. Humans take risks all the time. The concern does not lie with this kink, where ideally it would involve conversations and research that allow people to take a calculated risk, but instead with the fact that it has become mainstream to the point where it is too often assumed that consent is not necessary and that it seems a standard part of sexual activity in young people. Sexual choking has become increasingly prevalent in mixed-sex pornography. Okay, look. My issue with that is I don't think that this is people that are not fucking and not choking trying to tell young people how to feel about it. Because I don't hear there's not some big upswell of young people complaining about being choked out of the blue. You know, if it's become if it's become mainstream, what does that even mean? Mainstream. Because I don't think everyone likes being choked, right?
No, I don't.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think most men don't, right? And I don't know what most women want, but I also know that like it's a feel thing, and some people's fucking antennas are just off. Where it's like, because you can't stop every 10 seconds in sex and be like, is it okay if I think you need to do is have those conversations ahead of time.
Yeah.
And then in the moment go with the flow. But this, well,
one of the things that this article goes into is that there's a bunch of studies that suggest that when women give consent to be choked, a lot of them do it not because they derive pleasure from being choked, but because they believe that their male partner derives pleasure from choking.
From choking them. Ah.
Right. And so it gets into this slippery area of, is that true consent if you're obviously it is true consent if you're giving consent and you're actively granting that, but we need we probably just need new language for describing what that is, where you're acquiescing to something for your partner's benefit, and there's like this miscommunication where they think that you're deriving pleasure from it.
Well,
right?
I think it's not a miscommunication. It's a lack of communication.
Yeah.
It's like, because you know what it is too, is as freaky as we have become, for whatever reason, like America this is a very sexually repressed culture.
Yeah.
And even as much as we like to fuck, we don't talk about fucking. And we certainly don't like talking about fucking with people we trying to fuck. That's what's so crazy about it. It's like, I feel like, because if you have all them conversations ahead of time, then you don't got to stop the flow to be like, is this all right? Is that all right? Did you want this? Did you want that? Yeah, I mean, I guess no, because see, you do need to check in.
Yeah.
You know, but my point is like, you can tell, like you should be able to tell, like she didn't like that or that wasn't okay. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I don't know.
Yes and no. Kids. I mean, it's
because a lot of times, because I also hear this, that like a lot of times in relationships, people are having sex in the first place when they don't feel like it because they think it's what their partner wants, or your partner is like they're being intimate, but they don't want sex, but it turns into sex. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people can't pull those two things apart. Where it's like sometimes they come in for affection, for comfort, and it gets a little sexual, but that doesn't mean that they want to fuck. But you end up fucking anyway. And I don't know.
Right.
So it's a lot of that, but that's just people's ability. That's their inability to communicate. Right, and I think most of it comes from the fact that most of their social interaction is online. You know,
yeah,
I think people are
I think it definitely goes back to the pornography that people are consuming, because choking happens a lot in porn.
I think it comes from the fact that people are losing the ability to read the room, which is funny because
I see what you're saying.
It's something that the kids say a lot on TikTok, and most of the people saying it can't do it. You know, when it's like your ability to feel. Okay, let me rephrase that. You know how they say 90% or some high percent of communication is nonverbal.
Yeah.
Right, and that's how you get in a situation where someone can give consent, but it's not real consent, or it's not. It's like you should be able to tell, like, even when if somebody say yes, because all of us have done this. We all have wives, girlfriends, right? It's like when your wife says fine. It's like you know when that really mean fine, and you know when it mean absolutely fucking not fine, right? And so it's like, or when your girl says yes, you know when it's not really yes, because of all of the other things, the body language, the facial structure, the pheromones, the way they stand in, the way their hands moved when they said it, the tone, the pitch, all the little idiosyncrasies. And I feel like people are slowly losing that. They're losing the ability to know, to just know when, like know when, like, because when I was a teenager, it was, that was hard. But now I know when somebody's just close to me, the way they touching me, the way they talking, I know what's up. Right. I've never had to stop and be like, so are we about to have sex now? Not as an adult. It's like you already know. It's like sometimes you could tell by how they walk in the room and look at you like, oh, we fucking. This is gonna end up like we eating dinner right now, but the result is gonna be us fucking. You know what I mean? It's like they're losing that. They don't have the ability to be, or I don't know. I don't know what it's like to be a young person now. It must be thoroughly confusing.
I mean, I think one thing we can say is you probably shouldn't choke somebody like without knowing that that's something that they want, because it's like that is like a violent act, right? To like cut off somebody's air or blood supply.
It's absolutely batshit crazy to choke somebody without knowing that that's what they want.
Yeah,
but that's what I'm saying is like, because I don't think the first time I choked a girl, nope, she did say choke me. But she actually grabbed my wrist and put my hand on her throat. But it was like in the throes of passion. You know what I mean?
Well, sure, but that's certainly affirmative consent if they physically take your hand and put it.
Well, I mean, listen. Maybe I sound like this isn't the case, but I'm definitely not advocating for you to just choke people. you know what I'm saying? I feel like when in doubt, like don't choke.
Right?
Or any of that. It's like.
I think what this article is getting at, what this opinion piece is getting at, is that choking there is a universe of sexual acts that when somebody gives you, like when you get consent from somebody and like you're having sex with them, there are certain things that you are kind of like allowed to do because they come under the umbrella of like I've given you consent to have sex.
Like kissing on the titties. You can definitely,
yes.
If you're already having sex, you can go right for the titties.
Right.
I think that's universally accepted. You can do all sorts of things with the titties.
Yes. If you're fucking and you're making out, you can kiss somebody's neck without asking for permission, I believe.
Yeah.
Now,
can you bite
I don't
them?
think you should put your hands on them. I don't think you should bite them either.
No. See, I'm right there. Listen, this is where I'm at. I think if you're anything that is violence, even if it's playful or sexual, that's got to be discussed. Because you know something I hate girls digging their nails in my back. Because that's something else that people get from movies and they think everybody likes it. I fucking hate it. I don't like it at all. But I
used to date a girl who would bite my fucking lip.
Yeah, that's what.
And I was like, no,
don't
I mean. Do that.
Anything that involves pain or restriction, that's got to be agreed on, or at least talked about, or at least hinted at, or something. You have to have some kind of affirmative push in that direction. You shouldn't just be choking, biting, scratching people without knowing for sure that they into that shit.
Right.
You know, and it's as simple as just asking them, "Hey, are you into this? Are you willing to try it?"
Right.
You know, and then boom, and then let's do a debrief. You know, how,
right.
what, you know what I'm saying? I don't know, but I don't think the kids can do that. I don't think they can. I feel so bad for them because in this era of all this communication, we've kind of lost the ability to communicate. You know, we have all these ways and means. We have all the words for things and terms for things. But at the end of the day, that we don't know how to feel you. People don't know how to feel you. They don't know how to feel the situation. They don't know how to know when something's I don't know.
They also have a lot of trouble being vulnerable, and you have to be okay with a little bit of vulnerability to like even express to somebody else what you want.
Well, you know why they can't be vulnerable? It's because they always on the lookout for being like recorded or receipts or publicly embarrassed. You know, so they all have to live like politicians. It's kind of crazy, and you don't want that.
No,
you don't like that. That's such a crazy way to grow up to be a teenager right now, or just be one of these like young college kids. Because I live over here like on the edge of campus, and you know a lot of these young college kids, I just feel bad for them. They walk up the street, I'm like, man, I feel bad for these kids. They just don't. I mean, or maybe they feel bad for me because it's weird. They live in a world that's much freer in terms of like sexuality and ideas and who you're allowed to be and how you're allowed to express yourself. But in a lot of ways, they're less free.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I think the social consequences for missteps or being vulnerable are just way higher, or at least they're perceived to be. And so they're kind of paralyzed.
But why then why how does that jibe with people? That would make me think that people would be less sexually aggressive, less sexually exploratory. But
I think they are.
More,
I think they are. They are. They first of all, we know that they're having less sex, right? Didn't they talk about that? They're having less sex. And I think that means that when they finally do have sex, they're less experienced with intimacy.
Yeah, that's probably true.
You know, and so they fumble in the bag. Like you supposed to have all that uncomfortable shit supposed to be out the way, you know, well before. Well, I don't know what to tell people, but it just seems like it's like this sort of article wasn't written about eating pussy. You know, even though it was a thing that everybody was uncomfortable with when I was a kid. You know, and now they clowning DJ Khaled.
Wait, what? Explain this to me. You're saying it was when you were a kid.
I'm saying when I was a kid, I think we were armed with more tools because we were more social. Mm. We were more social as kids, so even though there was just as much discomfort around something that was considered sexually taboo or embarrassing, we were able to like be embarrassed and move on and learn from, you know, we were just better able to deal with social negatives. We were able to like learn from them and grow from them, but now it's like, you know, I think, and this is my theory, I just think that the stuff you do as kids follows you more than it did when we were coming up. You know, that embarrassing picture where you falling over drunk on your 21st birthday is like, that's on the internet until you die.
Yeah. Or
that video, or you a meme, or some shit. You know, I don't know what these kids, I don't know what their fears are, that their TikToks get deleted or something. You know?
Yeah, I wonder what the actual fear is there, because I feel like
it's
a
like
lot
if
of people...
you don't find the clit, you off TikTok.
Well, there was that one guy who didn't know how many holes a woman had. He got roasted for.
That's also wild to me. This is a new bit I'm doing on stage, by the way. But it's wild to me how the kids. It's wild to me how you can be bad at head, sucking dick and eating pussy nowadays when there's like tutorials.
Yeah.
There's tutorials, there's classes, there are 3D, you can take a 3D tour of a pussy and see where all the spots are. You know what I mean? And they're still like, yeah. And I don't know. But I also feel like most of the time people let you know where their erotic zones are and shit like that, but like where their tattoos are, where their piercings are, you know?
Oh, those are the quest markers on your fucking
or like because I knew when I was a youngin', I knew like because when they were popular back then, but I knew like if a girl was wearing a choker, she probably liked to be choked.
But you should ask first anyway.
You should still ask, but you're gonna probably get a yes, and her answer's gonna probably be like, "Duh." I'm walking around being choked all since I put this outfit on. I've been being choked all day. Okay, no. That's that is interesting. That is yeah. All right, guys. That feels like a good stopping point. Remember, ask first, choke later.
Yeah.
Choking, biting, all that stuff. I think you just got to get explicit consent for that. You know what I mean? Unless you in some kind of kink group. Like if you in the kink tent at Burning Man, or like if you have someone on a leash already, you know, and you got a safe word in place, maybe you can just try shit until they say Alabama or whatever. You know. Yeah, if you got somebody on a leash, then I feel like you're pretty much safe. You got a safe word, then you can do whatever you want till they say the safe word. But outside of that, but the type of people they talking about, they're not even at that level. They don't have safe words. They in the wonder years. And they can't eat pussy. Exactly. Yeah. And here's the other thing too. Learn how to eat pussy before you start choking people. You know what I'm saying? Because I guarantee they want their pussy ate. Well, that's not true either. I actually have met. I know a couple of women that don't like it. Like they won't let you, right? But I'm just saying that is way more likely to enhance the experience than you choking somebody. You know,
I wouldn't be surprised if those percentages were flips of one. You know what I mean? I bet it's like 98% of women like their pussy eaten and 2% like to be choked.
Right. Well, that's probably more than 2.
Well, maybe. I don't know.
It's probably more than 2. I also think you should have to have consent before you call me daddy or something like that. I don't like that.
Oh, I don't like that shit.
Don't call me daddy, poppy, father.
I've been out the game for a while though, so you know we have a
king. I don't like any of that. King.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Yeah,
I don't mind that one.
No, it's weird. It's still weird because it feels forced. Yeah. It feels like you had to stop and think about it. I'd rather you say some nonsense that don't make any sense. And when I repeat it to you later, you go, "What?" I would rather that happen. You're like, "I don't remember saying any of that." I'm like, "That's because I was fucking." Anyway, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, want advice from the advice champ, email me at bswithbriansimpson@gmail.com. My tour dates are at briansimpsoncomedy.com. My social medias are BS Comedian. Click on the link tree if you want to buy tickets to upcoming dates. I will be in Arizona, starting January. Arizona, Seattle, Alabama, Tennessee. I'm coming to Nashville, Huntsville, and I'm coming to Vermont. All those dates are on the calendar. Tickets are up and available. There's way more dates being added every single day. Don't forget to check out Eddie Pepitone and Kevin Tinkin on, what's the name of the podcast?
Apocalypse Soon.
Apocalypse Soon. You got anything to plug?
ComedyFrequency.com.
ComedyFrequency.com. Thanks y'all for
Josh
tuning
Potter Show. Josh Potter Show.
Oh, Josh Potter
also
Show.
On
Josh
YouTube.
Potter Show. Yeah. Thank y'all for tuning in. See y'all later.
I want to say one more thing. if you follow this show, if you're subscribed to this show, make sure you click on all on the little bell that you get all notifications, because otherwise it will not show it to you, because YouTube is
racist.
Yes,
YouTube's racist. They're sexist. I think that, they don't want me to succeed for whatever. I think it's because I'm a black man and Rob is working with them to hold me down.
Yep.
But so if you want to fight racism, click on subscribe, click on the bell notification, like the video, share the video. All those things help me make money.